Hey guys. So somebody posted on my subreddit last night asking me about the weight loss thing. And I wanted to make a point here about certain things in life that it is heavily suggested that you just don't do the conventional way for reasons I can't really come up with. So I wanted to talk about how you can use the law of assumption, you can use intention and shifting your state to do things the conventional way that other people fail at regularly. Like, it's so easy to use this stuff to be a standout with things that you already know how to do, but that like very few people can do. And one of these things is getting to an ideal physical form. There's a way that you can do that we already all know about. And the reason that everybody doesn't do it is because it's hard. It's not just something that you just do. So, you know, the big suggestion that I get whenever I talk about this, the immediate rebuttal is, well, but it doesn't have to be hard. You could just manifest it being easy. You could just manifest muscles on your body without lifting any weights at all. You could just manifest losing weight, like, without even changing how you eat, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's all these comments that come in. Okay, cool. Moving on. The way that the vast majority of people are going to be successful is by doing things that they know will produce an end result. Because that is way, way easier. This insinuation that like changing your mind about the laws of thermodynamics is easier than just manifesting a quality about yourself to come out, which is that like you are disciplined and can do something the conventional way. That is so much easier. But aside from being practically, I think, easier, there is a major component of the manifestation process that is going to be, I think, really, really challenging to assess if you're trying to manifest a different state that does the exact same thing you're doing now. First of all, I think that I can't say 100% for sure because I'm just not going to do that here, but a state of consciousness shifts everything. Like, it literally shifts everything. A behavior that appears to be the exact same thing from the outside is actually done from a different spirit. But mostly if you shift consciousness in a big way, a lot of things are going to shift. Like, you're going to seem like a different person to the people who know you the best. And so it changes your demeanor. It changes how you think. It changes how you act. It changes the energy about you when you walk into a room. It definitely, almost always, changes the things you're doing during the day. It changes the way you talk about yourself. It changes the way you talk about everything else. There's an outer, palpable change in your behavior. So if you're trying to manifest something, kind of like going the backdoor route, rather than going directly there through conventional means, if they're available, when you do that, you skip over this really important assessment part of the consciousness shift. This isn't my opinion. This is Neville. I'll link to that same lecture I linked a few days ago. And I've been reading a bunch of Neville lectures since, and he talks about this in a lot of his later lectures too, in the 60s. If you don't have your reactions to things to look to as evidence that you have changed consciousness, you won't have a good way of knowing that you have. That's one of the important things that you look to in order to make to adjust your course. Because when you're going from where you are now to a majorly different state, and the weight loss thing the weight example is a really good one, because mentality, for me, I'll just reference myself. I think this is true for most people, but the mentality I had at 190 and the mentality I had at 115 were completely different. Like, it was not the same person mentally almost at all. And there's a cop coming. I got to turn my car off. You're not allowed to have your phone in your hands with your car on here. What was I saying? So from the higher weight to the lower weight was a major shift in who I was. And as Neville says, when you're going along this process, you stop and you look to your reactions. all day. He says, you know, you basically have to be observing yourself all day to see, am I reacting the way the person I want to be would react, or am I still reacting like my old self? That's how you know you need to kind of go back and reimagine the end state and retake on, or continue to try to take on the state of the person that is what you want. That's the hard part of this. For big things, or for difficult things, that's the difficult part. You know, it's not always a huge shift. It's not always a ton of work. I don't mean to say that. I'm basically talking about the hard stuff on this channel, the hard stuff I did, and the things that appear to be hard to other people. So if you want to manifest having the exact same behavior, I think you might be shooting yourself in the foot to begin with, because you haven't fully understood yet that at a different state you will feel different and you will want different things. So if you're 200 and you say, I want to eat whatever I want today, and you're 115 and you say, I want to eat literally whatever I want today, I'm telling you, the amount of food that you will eat from those two different states is different. I've done it from both a lot of times over the last, decade. I have eaten whatever I want as a fat person and whatever I want as a thin person, like to the point where my mind was satiated and I didn't want anymore. And it was whatever type of food I wanted, the same garbage food that I would eat at that higher weight, but I ate a much lesser quantity of it. And it didn't, honestly, it didn't do the same thing for me that it did at those higher weights. So I've experienced both. It's way different. And the urge to do it, to like just eat whatever you want, happens way less frequently at a lower weight for me, but I'm guessing for everybody, because, there are all the causes for why you want to do the things you do. And, if you are actually at the state of the person that you want to be and you have achieved that, some of the things that were causing you to want, a lot of people just eat because they're so sick of being a person that eats. They eat because they're fat and it makes them upset, like Fat Bastard said. In Austin Powers, I can't remember. I eat because I'm fat, and I'm fat because I eat. Like that part at least will resolve. Like there's a shift. So I personally think, this is my opinion, and only you, if you're already doing something that's working, just ignore this completely. You don't need to, if you're doing something that works, you're doing the right thing. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Neville also says this, if there, people will point to your, to the second cause, the thing that happened in 3D, to justify, why you got the end result you got, when no, if you got the end thing, you did the shift in consciousness, basically. That's what Neville says. So for me, and this just makes sense, I think, for a lot of people that are really overweight, it makes a lot more sense to manifest a version of yourself that also behaves differently. Because then as you go along, you will be able to measure where you're at mentally with it. You'll know if you're in the state or not. You'll know if you're becoming that person, because it starts with an outer difference. And know, like, that it might take a while to actually get to the point where you're actually doing the thing that you intend to do as part of that. But it's, to me, it just doesn't make any sense for somebody that has a problem with this to then try to manifest themselves as a person that still displays the problem, the behavior of the problem, but doesn't display the consequences of the problem. I have yet to see anyone actually doing what I think people think that means. Even if you start from that point, you're going to end up at the point where you're actually not behaving the way you thought you were going to behave. Because the change in state, whether it's brought about by you being subjected to your 3D reality being different, which, like, if you force yourself to go on a diet, and I'm not saying you should, because I think that fails like 100% of the time. If you force yourself to just diet somehow without this accompanying mental change, and you just white knuckle your way down, eventually you will get to a lower weight where you feel different, and you will automatically have a different state. You know, that's another way of going about it. I wouldn't recommend it, because that way leads to failure for like everybody. I mean, look at the fat country that the US is. You know, it's full of people looking for diets and looking for the next like quick fix, and getting ready to start their diet tomorrow, and you know, everything else like that, and then they just fail. It's because there's no shift in the consciousness. If they're not a different person in their mind, they're still the version of themselves that created the problem, just battling against that version of themselves, expressing themselves naturally. That's why that has to change, the mentality. I don't know if that made any sense or helped anybody, but if you don't have that barometer to look at when you're making a change in consciousness, to know that you've actually changed, it becomes pretty difficult. So somebody posted on my subreddit about this. It was somebody who I actually saw their post that they made like over 6 months ago. They were like, it was like my story. I started at 190. I'm down to 157. I hate this so much. I want to just not be restricted. I just basically, and I think the person that made this might be watching this video. Basically what I read in that is, I'm still the person that I was before, and I still want to behave like the person I was before. And so I hate this. Of course you would hate it. You know, of course you would hate doing that. And, you know, this person also said, you know, I've done SATs, I've done all the stuff, like all the Neville stuff to get into the end state. And I'm still hating this. I'm still hating every minute of it. You're not in the end state then. If you're hating it, and there's a difference between hating it and just being kind of burned out from doing something that requires physical effort. And people also confuse those two things, I think. You know, sometimes when you're like doing something that's worthwhile, you have a low point with it, and you're just like, I hate this. And then you just gut it out for a little while, and you're back up to the high part of it, where you're actually really happy that you're doing it. And, you know, you get back into that state that produces the outer result. You know, I wish people didn't talk about this like it was some magic, easy thing. It's not. For big overhauls, it's not. You know, and when I say a big overhaul, I mean something that you have like mental resistance and obstacles and all kinds of shit with. Not some easy thing, you know. For me, going from broke to rich was a pretty big freaking outer change, but that wasn't a major mental overhaul for me by any stretch. When I was broke, I was already the person that is sitting here with money right now in my mind. That was me, and I naturally identified with that, probably due to my upbringing. I wasn't brought up rich, but I saw plenty of abundance behaviors growing up, and so I was naturally geared towards that. And so it was still not even easy for me to change my outer behavior. Over many years, I had to get disciplined and do all this stuff to run a business, but that wasn't hard. So it's just because it's a big outer change doesn't necessarily mean it's a difficult one. It could be a small outer change and be the hardest fucking thing in the world for you, depending on your mentality. So for the people that have like a big weight thing, it's fucking cold in here. For people that have a big weight thing, you know, it may just be easier for you to do the thing where you have a measurable thing where you can tell, am I the person mentally that's doing this? By how much effort you're having to put forth to become the thing you want to become. You know, if mentally you take on the state of that person and you think, what would this person think? And you try to kind of like try on their thoughts, and your situations throughout your day arise, and you know, you can say, well, I think the person I would be would do this with this situation. I would do this. Which choice am I going to make? That to me is just a way easier way to get to the end goal. And then once you have that end goal, if you're not happy with how you feel about it, or some aspect of that needs shifting, you can do it from that state, where I think it's a lot easier personally. But that's what I got to say about that. So have a great day.